All right, how often do you find yourself sitting and waiting to take action until you feel like it? Until you get that feeling that you feel like, all right, now it's time to take action. But how often are we in the, I guess, before stages of that, where we're just sitting and waiting for the feeling? What's going on? How is everybody doing today? Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson. If you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health, self-development, how to get your life moving in the right direction. If you're not feeling good about where you are right now, at least having the good feeling, the confidence, knowing that you are moving in the right step, in the right direction on a day-to-day basis, or at least if you're not, at least you're aware of what's holding you back. And so I hope that you're doing well. If you're brand new, real quick, if you're brand new to this show, if you've never listened or watched before, I'm a carpenter. I'm a guy that just comes on here and talks about the things that I think about, the things that hold me back, and the things that I talk about with my friends. So if you guys enjoy this podcast, please do like, comment, subscribe, share it, rate it 5 stars, leave a review, do everything you can in your power to help it out. But I guess I should get started and give you a reason to do so. But without further ado, let's jump into it. If you're not new to the show, thank you very much for coming back, and thank you for the support that you keep showing us. I do really, really honestly appreciate it. And I said it in the last episode right at the end, it kind of sounded like I was joking. As I listened back to it, I was like, I maybe should talk about this a little bit more. But the first 5 people that send me a screenshot of like rating the podcast 5 stars or commenting on it, any way you want to interact, whether you're like sending me a screenshot of you liking it, sharing it, subscribing, rating it 5 stars, I'll send you a t-shirt. If you share with a friend and they do it and somehow you can prove that, I don't know, I'll send you a hoodie. But let's get that, I guess, interactions up. But anyways, I wanted to come on here today and kind of just chat about this because it's something that I've been thinking about recently. The conversation came up with a couple of people that I love. And so, I just thought I'd come on here and do a little brain dump. That's kind of the way that I think of these things. A lot of the time, it is basically just verbal journaling. It's just me sitting here and talking to my phone so I can kind of listen back and hear my own thoughts. And sometimes I listen back at like after a year or 2 years or something like that, because I've been doing this for a couple years. And there's certain things where I'm like, wow, I definitely got that a little wrong, or I said that a little weirdly, or whatever it is. And so it's an interesting way for me to just kind of, I guess, do an audit of my own thoughts. And hopefully you guys can pull some value from that as well. And so one of the things I was thinking about recently is like this idea, this problem that we all deal with for some reason, where we're just sitting around like thinking about, we delay action basically because we're waiting until we feel like it. A lot of us, we plan on waking up at a certain time, and then when it comes time to do it, you're like, no, I feel tired. I feel like my body needs the rest. I feel like I should, and so we skip waking up on time, or we skip a workout because we feel like our bodies need the rest, or we avoid making a phone call to a customer, to our boss, because we just don't feel like it. We're not really in that. When I feel more empowered, when I feel better and more confident, when I can present myself a little bit better, every single justification in the book, we're like, I'll do it then, I'll do it then, I'll do it then. And obviously, you guys are probably a lot more aware and have a better comprehensive understanding of the law of inertia. But let's be honest, if something's not moving, it's pretty fucking hard to get it moving. And so if you're just going to delay action in regards to a workout or work that you need to be done or something like that, because you're like, oh, I'm going to wait until the feeling is there for me to do it. It's like, well, if an object is not in motion, it's pretty hard to get it in motion. And so, you got to build up a little bit of momentum. You got to get a little bit of movement going, a little bit, and then and start from there. But I'll kind of jump into that a little bit more. I guess in a couple minutes. But I guess the first thing I want to kind of think about is we have this misconception that like, oh, I'll do these things when I feel like it. We have this thought or this idea that like our feelings will come first and then our behaviors will follow those feelings. And if that's the case, that means that we're living 100% reactive to the world around us. We're actually just sitting and waiting to react to the way that we feel on a certain day or a certain time in the day or whatever it is. And we all know that our feelings are completely manipulatable. I don't know if that's an actual word, but it's super easy to manipulate our feelings. And so many of us, our feelings are just on a whim. A lot of the time it depends to, how long we have our fucking Instagram apps open or TikTok or Twitter or X or whatever you use on your phone, whatever, half of our feelings, a lot of the time we don't even know what our feelings are. We just consume other people's feelings. Like a lot of the time, a lot of the time we check in with our phones, we check in with social media. I'd say most people, most of the time, check in with their phones and check in with social media and get their feelings downloaded from there more often than they actually check in with themselves, whether that's meditation or journaling or whatever it is, like a conversation with a loved one, a counselor. The first thing we think of when we wake up in the morning is like, check the phone. Whether you think about it or not, you fucking do it. Like half of us have our phones just sitting right there and, it's sitting right by our bedside table. If you even have an alarm on your phone, which you don't snooze 19 times, the first thing we do is we pick up our phone, we go on Instagram, we go on YouTube, we go on Netflix, we go on TikTok, we go on X, we go on all these different things, Facebook, depending on your age, I guess. And we basically just download our feelings from there. We don't like actually sit and let our bodies, we don't move our bodies, we don't think about our feelings or what kinds of things are on our minds or process our dreams from the night before. Like we're literally just downloading our own feelings. A lot of the time, like especially nowadays where the world is so like divided and political, a lot of the time like you just you're in the zeitgeist. You're like, oh, I just feel the same way about everything that the other people that agree with me or the other people that follow me. And so like I think that a lot of the time our feelings aren't even our own feelings. And so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's come from the weird I guess pretense that our feelings are our own. And so if we start from there, a lot of the times we get this misconception that like, oh, we're going to have this feeling and then our behavior is going to follow this feeling. And I think it's the complete opposite way around. Like every single person that that's accomplished something that you look up to, everything that you have in your life, like your phone, your computer, your car, your truck, your fucking smart watch, your everything that you have that you actually value in this world other than people was created by somebody who was not feeling like it that day or was feeling tired. We all have these, we all have those thoughts. We all have those feelings of like, maybe I'll just fucking, phone it in and leave it for the next guy, leave it for tomorrow. That's a problem for future, Mark. Like that's a lot of the way that we think. At least I can say that that's for me. And so we get this idea of like, yeah, I don't really feel like doing this workout. I don't really feel like calling my customer. I don't really feel like calling my boss. I don't really feel like doing my taxes. Like I'll just do it on a day that I have more energy. I'll do it on a day that I feel better. And I think that a lot of the time we have this like misconception that the behavior will follow the feeling. And I think that that's completely backwards. I think that it's like the same thing of like, if you want to feel like, oh, I'll go out and train and win a competition when I feel like a champion, when I feel like a winner, when I feel like somebody that trains and does all these things, when really it's like, no, actually, you're probably going to have to get your dick kicked in. You're probably going to have to like literally go out, look like an idiot, lose, fail, learn from those things, like go in and just day in and day out, grind and grind and grind. And then maybe you get the chance of feeling like a winner if you accomplish anything. And like that seems like a drastic kind of excessive way to put it, but it's like when you put it in that way, it's pretty easy to see like the feeling follows the behavior. If you want to feel like somebody that has a lot of energy. That's somebody that maybe gets things done when you don't have a lot of energy. If you want to feel those things, you have to actually do the behaviors first. If you want to feel like a healthy person, you probably have to behave like a healthy person. You probably have to take care of your sleep schedule. You probably have to take care of what you're putting in your body. The information as well as the food, as well as the nutrition, those types of things. Like if you want to actually feel a certain way, if you have like this concept of like who you want to be and what you want to do and how you want to feel, the behavior has to come before the feelings. You're not going to feel like a wealthy, financially healthy person if you've got fucking loads of debt and nothing in the bank account. You're not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to, maybe my behavior will change once I feel successful. Like, it's like, no, you're going to have to do the behavioral stuff first, and you'll probably feel a little bit better maybe later down the line when you have some examples to base those feelings on. And so just kind of this idea like this, there's a danger in waiting. And I think that a lot of the time we think that we value, I guess, we put more value on the discomfort or the pain or the resistance that we feel right now. We put more value on that than we do of the consequences, the pain of the consequences of our actions. And what I mean by that is we allow, the discomfort of today, we value that so high that we kind of misappraise what's coming in the future. We go, oh, that'll be handleable. That'll be surmountable by future Mark. He'll be able to deal with that. He'll be able to deal with that. Not understanding that you won't be able to deal with it because you can't deal with it now. And that's why you're trying to avoid it. And it's like, well, what do you think? You're going to have more energy in the future? You're going to have more, like, it's just kind of a weird, I know we all can kind of wrap our heads around this, but there's a weird disconnect because we don't all act this way. And so there's like this idea of like, okay, we get the concept, but it's implementing it that's more difficult. And so what's the solution? I don't know, because my life isn't fucking perfect. I don't have it all figured out. But what works for me, what has been working to improve in my life is just kind of like this idea. And I'm not trying to say like fake it till you make it. But what I am trying to say is like start acting like the person that you actually wish to become. Act like the person that you want to feel like. So like if you want to feel like somebody that holds discipline in their heart and doesn't waver when other people are telling them, hey, you shouldn't do that or you should do, then you have to kind of act like it. You can't doubt. You can't have that self-doubt. You can't have that. You might have it, but you can't allow it to impact your behaviors, because it's not like I'm saying you need to get rid of that feeling altogether of like this inner voice that is always telling you, hey, you need to slow down. You need to be careful. You need to do this. You need to do that. Maybe you shouldn't do these risky things. Like, you need to have that voice. So I'm not saying that you should get rid of it, but just be able to identify like when it's helping you or when it's hurting you. Because I think that there, again, another misconception is like we see all these people that are achieving high things or we see people that we envy or we want to be like, we want to emulate. And we have this idea that like, oh, they don't, they like, I deal with this thing and they don't deal with that thing. And it's like, no, they probably are. Like, I think we need to humanize them a little bit more. They probably do deal with the same things. They're just able to identify like when it's helping them and when it's hurting them. Everybody takes a vacation. Everybody takes a rest day. Nobody's working 100% of the time, 100% of the days. So it's just really what it comes down to is understanding when it's actually a valid thought of like, maybe I do need this rest. Maybe I should wait before I do this thing. Like, because there's always going to be conversations of like, yeah, maybe you should cool your head a little bit before you have this conversation. Maybe you're like actually a little bit too emotional right now. You're a little bit upset. You're a little bit angry and you should wait to have this conversation. But most of the time it's like, yeah, you're, at least on my end, I know it's like you're just fucking avoiding what you need to do because it's a little bit uncomfortable. And so we have to kind of, like I said, it's not like a fake it till you make it. I'm not asking anybody or I'm not telling anybody or I'm not asking myself to like, you want to be rich, then like go and rent a Lamborghini and take pictures of how much money you have and like completely like disregard reality to what your finances are. I'm not saying like fake it till you make it, but I mean like act like the person you actually want to become. Do you think that people that are like financially well off are just spending their money fucking willy-nilly, all like throwing their money at Instagram thoughts and renting yachts? And no, nobody that's actually fucking, unless you have that kind of money where you don't have to think about it, then yeah, that's another story. But like most of what we're talking about is like within reasonable grounds of like, yeah, most financially responsible people that don't have to worry about their finances don't spend their money stupidly. They are calculated, and even the money that they throw around has been put aside to throw around. It's not like they're just like it's not like they're spending money like a government where it's like, oh, I'm just going to print more of it. It's like they know where the money comes from, they know where it's going, and they set aside a little bit to throw around. It's just that the side that they throw around is much higher than what we have, so we just view it as like, oh, they just throw around my annual salary on fucking Instagram thoughts, and so I should do the same. It's like, no, that's just like a small portion of what they have. And so like if you want to, I don't know if this is making sense, but it's like you want to act like the feeling. You got to act like if you want the feelings to come, you got to act like the person that has those feelings, I guess is the best way to say it. Another way to put it is like in regards to fitness. Like it's not like you can kind of see people that are in the fitness world. They've got their 6-pack abs, that they show it on Instagram all the time, and then they show themselves eating like a fucking entire pizza and a couple cookies, and you're like, oh, well, I can just be jacked and eat a couple pizzas and a couple cookies like a few times a week, and like it'll just be fucking good to go. Like I'll just Bob's your uncle. That's it. You just gotta fucking work out enough. And it's like, well, what you're not seeing is like every other one of their meals is like boiled fucking chicken and plain rice, and so like that's just like their one meal that they're going to town on. And so like if you think that you can just eat like shit regularly and then feel like this high achiever, this jacked fucking guy, it's like probably not gonna. You got to do follow. What I'm trying to say is follow the 80% of the actions that got them to where they are, not the 10% of the actions how they celebrate. I think we see. You see like the what do they call it in I'm not a football fan, but like the Super Bowl parade or whatever. That's what it is. The Super Bowl parade. You see people like popping bottles and spraying bottles, and you're like, dude, that's what winning athletes do. They pop bottles. They put the in baseball, they put like the fucking ski goggles on and they're like spraying bottles, and you're like, oh, if I want to be a winning championship athlete, I guess that's what I should do, is just like celebrate all the time and showboat and work on my celebrations for when I get a touchdown or whatever it is. It's like, no, that's like the 1% or the 5% of the time where they're actually just like celebrating their achievements. Like what you actually need to emulate is the Mamba mentality of like Kobe, where he's like in the gym like 9 hours before practice, just sitting there shooting free throws. And I know those numbers aren't like 100%, whatever. The guy shot like 1 million free throws a day, and it's like, we want to emulate the celebrating and the popping bottles, thinking like, oh, I want to feel like Kobe. When it's like, well, if you want to feel like Kobe, you're going to have to eat some shit. You're going to have to go into the gym 3 days before practice starts and just be like literally sitting there shooting free throws and eating your fucking basketball shoe. Like whatever, how dedicated this guy is. It's like, so that's what I mean. About like I'm not telling you to fake it till you make it. I'm not telling you to emulate the successful achievement celebration. I'm saying we got to act like the person we want to become, in the sense that like, let's look at the 95% of the actions that they do that contributes to 100% of their success, not the acting out in celebration. And so I don't know. This idea of like breaking inertia and applying it to your life and waiting until the feelings come. Start small. Like I said, you want to start moving an object that's like not moving. It's just like sitting there still, and you want to get it moving. You got to build some momentum. You got to get the ball rolling a little bit, because to get it from like, I don't know what the fucking numbers are or whatever it is, but I'll just give you a little visualization. Like in my eyes, the way I'm explaining this is like to get it from like 40 kilometers an hour to 50 kilometers an hour, getting a ball rolling is a lot easier than getting it from like 0 to 10. If you've ever tried to move something that's not moving, it's pretty fucking hard. But if something's already moving, you just apply a little bit more force and it'll just go faster. And so it's the same thing with our bodies, with our minds, with everything else. It's like the first 5% of the movement is the most difficult part. And like that's a lot of the time when I wake up and I don't want to get moving or anything like that, when I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing this workout, I just fucking get on my stationary bike and move for like 5 minutes. And then it's like, okay, I can manage a couple sets of bench press. The bro-y stuff. I can manage, it's harder to convince myself to just wake up and grab the dumbbells and do some deadlifts or some lunges or some squats. It's easier to just be like, okay, how about I sit on the bike and pump my legs for a couple minutes? It's like, okay, I could grab maybe I'll do some shrugs. Maybe I'll do some shoulder exercises. And then once I get the dumbbells in my hand, it's like, okay, I could bend my knees a bit. I could get some squats in. I could do it's about starting small and building the momentum. And obviously I'm talking about like fitness and exercise and workouts right now, because that's my realm. That's the stuff I love. But this applies to anything else. Like, it's like, fuck, you find yourself avoiding phone calls. How about you just text your customers a little bit more? And then that text message becomes like, hey, do you have time for a 5-minute phone call? And then half the time that I'm sitting there talking to my customers, we're not even talking about work stuff. Like, we actually just genuinely get a connection, and we're like, oh, this is way easier to talk to this person now because I've humanized them. I've grown to like them. There's something about the familiarity of like when talking to somebody the first time is kind of weird and shitty, but like talking to them the 10th time or the 12th time or the 15th time, it's just easier. Even when you have like kind of an adversarial relationship, which I hope you don't have an adversarial relationship with people that you have to speak to on a regular basis. But like even when you have like that coworker that you don't like talking to, you talk to them like 15, 20 times, and it's like, okay, I get, like, I don't fucking like you, you don't fucking like me, but at least we have like a common ground of like, I want to make money, you want to make money, like, let's figure out a way that we can just go home at night and think about other things and not each other. And so, on that note, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. Your feelings are going to follow your behaviors. If you sit around all the time and you don't fucking do the things that you need to be doing, you're going to feel like somebody that fucking avoids everything and feels guilty and feels anxious all the time. And there a little bit of guilt and shame. A lot of the times people are like, oh, normalize this, oh, normalize that, which maybe I'll do a whole episode on this in and of itself, but like there's this idea we need to normalize everything. But it's like maybe a little bit of guilt and shame, like they're natural things. There's a reason we all feel them at some point in our life, because biologically there's some advantage to like, oh, I did this thing and it's not a good thing. So maybe I should feel a little bit of guilt and shame. It's almost like it's like a fire alarm, like an internal fire alarm built inside your body of like, hey, this fucking thing's going off. Like maybe there's something that we need to change. Maybe there's something we need to address, like a fire that's burning right now. And not come from the point of view of like, can we just shut this alarm off? Can we just turn this off? Like, let's normalize this fucking alarm just going off. Like, don't get mad at me because this alarm's going. We get this this feeling like the guilt and shame shouldn't exist. But I think that there's a little bit more productivity or productiveness in guilt and shame than we really think. And I think that a lot of the times what we're trying to avoid feeling guilt and shame for are the things that we're willingly choosing to do on a regular basis that are putting us in a worse position. And the fact that we don't want to feel the guilt and shame is what forces us to offload that guilt and shame or responsibility onto somebody else. And then we start getting into that victimhood mindset of like, oh, I can't do this thing because this person or this group of people or this whatever it is. And it's like, maybe, but maybe we do have a little bit more responsibility than we're willing to admit. And that's all I'm trying to say. And so on that note, I think that's a good place to wrap this up. If you like this episode, you think that somebody else needs to hear it, or you think that maybe you want to save it for later, share it with somebody, rate it 5 stars, leave a review, download it, do whatever you need to do. It helps your boy out, and hopefully it helps you out as well. Much love. Peace out. See you guys next Monday. Peace. Bye.